Welcome to PaddyCast. In this episode, we're joined by former Unified, IBF, and WBA Bantamweight champion Ryan Burnett. How are you getting on, mate?
Hang on, wait there. It's Super WBA Bantamweight champion.
Apologies. Apologies.
Well,
Here, what I really want to know is like how. Obviously, you're a very successful boxer, but I want to know how you get started boxing in the first place and like bring it on your amateur career.
I was 9 years old, and a few of my friends were heading to the boxing club, the Crunk, top of the New Lodge. A few of my friends were heading there, and I just sort of asked my mum and dad could I go, and they said yeah. They brought me down, and I just start boxing. And they say you get punched in the face, and you either hate it or love it. And unfortunately, I was one of the ones that loved it, and I just stuck with it. Boxed at Crunk for about 4 years, and I don't know if you know this, but it was you that made me go to Holy Family.
Yeah,
so it was.
I played at the best club in North Belfast.
I remember seeing you walking down the road with Maury, and you must have been about 16. I was a kid, and I come over to you and I was talking to you, and I was asking you questions about Holy Family, and you said, "Come down and see the gym," and rightly so, I went down, and that was it. I started boxing for Holy Family after that.
Yeah, it was great. Never. But I actually, even as an amateur, I was older than you, obviously, but I knew about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I knew who you were. Like, even though you're only a wee kid, but it was like you were like something ridiculous, like 49-0 as an amateur
Yeah.
before you lost a fight.
I went 49 fights undefeated until I got beat.
See, and how many Irish titles did you win?
I won 7 Irish titles, so the seven
Yeah.
All Irelands, and then eventually got picked to box for Ireland, and then I went on for I won a world silver and then the youth Olympic gold, which put me the number one in my weight as an amateur.
Like that world youth silver. You lost to a fella from Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
But you actually, the following year, you went on to beat him in the Olympic final. Like,
Yeah.
how sweet was it beating someone who beat you in a massive tournament like the Youth Olympics?
Well, he actually beat me twice. So he did. He beat me twice, and me and the team were convinced that it was robbery. It was in Azerbaijan, fighting Azerbaijan, and we were convinced that it was robbery. And I always said, if I fight him outside of his own country, I'll beat him. So I met him in the finals of the Youth Olympics in Singapore, and rightly so, I beat him, and I beat him well.
That first time he beat you, I actually remembered. It was like the Great Silk Road tournament in Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
I know everything with this then. But I remember because I remember Jai Soy telling me that you were fighting the world cadet champion.
Yeah.
That's who he was at the time, and that was your first Irish trip.
Yeah, that's right.
What a way to be like launched on the national stage. You know, should be beating the champion.
Yeah, I mean, I thought at the time the lad himself, he was very talented and he was known for being a good fighter. So to be put it, they could even get through to the final of that competition and fight one of the best was great. But I should have won it, but I got robbed, which ultimately built me up for a good story for getting them in the finals of Singapore.
Yeah, it's like even like qualifying for the Olympics. There was such a good tournament because you're fighting TV and out there. You know, how great was it to win the gold medal? Because I remember when you came home, we had party and all, and won the wall bar and all. But it was great.
It was amazing. It's like, to me, the ultimate goal was obviously the Olympics, but to win the Youth Olympic gold, which put me number one in the world at a young age, it was obviously, it's a massive. You were able to tell people that, oh, I'm number one in the world at your age group, which was obviously massive. So, and especially to beat someone who'd beat me twice before.
Yeah.
And I also, in that the run up to that, I beat the best in the world. I beat the Uzbekistan, who was the world bronze, and then I beat the world silver as well. So, I mean, it was good. It was good. It was good. It was a good run up at it.
Yeah, because actually, remember when you came home, you were still like a junior, a youth, sorry.
Yeah.
and I used to spar you all the time. But I remember sparring you since you were like a wee kid. I was always beating you around, and through the year, all of a sudden, punches start getting harder. And I'm like, what's going on here? It's ridiculous. But we had some great spars, and like I think it showed in our careers. It brought both of us on a lot. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. For me especially, because when we boxed at the same club, you were always that bit older than me, bit more mature than me, bit more skilled than me for the age. And for me to be sparring the likes of yourself massively brought me on, because I was trying to compete with someone who was Olympic level like yourself. Yeah. So that was like, not to blow smoke up yours, like, but it really brought me on in my amateur career, you know.
Like, you turned pro very young. What age made you turn pro?
So I left the amateur game when I was 19, and I think I had my first pro fight when I was 21, simply because it took me so long to get my pro license.
Yeah, like, it's mad. You say yourself, you turned pro quite young, but
yeah,
like, you only have one ever senior fight.
Yeah.
1 point lost to McConnell, who's Olympic bronze medalist. But you know, what was different from, like, well, what did you feel was different from the amateurs to the professional game?
What was massively noticeable for me was the gloves. To be able to put the tiny 8-ounce gloves on and hitting someone, knowing that you could hurt them, it was a big difference. And the pace was a lot slower. You know yourself, as an amateur and swapping over to professional, the pace is completely different. As an amateur, you're so high paced. In the pros, it's slowed down a little bit, and to me, I think that suited me a bit more. But yeah, I mean, the gloves were a massive difference, and the pace of tempo that you were fighting at was a massive difference as well.
You turned pro with Ricky Hatton initially. What made you sign with him?
At the time, he obviously had a great career himself, so he knew about boxing. He was looking for professional boxers to sign under the Hatton management, and we got talking to him. We liked the stable. We liked how he done business at the time, and it made sense.
Yeah, and then after that, obviously, you were quite successful with Ricky Hatton. He's had a great career.
Yeah.
Then you changed. You moved camp to Alan Booth. How much influence do you think Alan Booth had in your career?
Not to take anything away from Ricky, but I think Adam was just that he understood boxing a little bit differently. I think Rick understood boxing from a fighter's perspective, where Adam understood boxing from a coach's perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Adam's extremely knowledgeable. He knows so much about boxing. So Ricky brought me up to a brilliant level, taught me quite a bit, and then I think Adam just sort of brought me on a bit more.
A bit more, because you and Adam, you've both seen the gel easily. I think Adam has his own unique style of fighting. And you can tell from the fighters he has now, like Mick Conlon and Josh Kelly, their kind of style is it's different from the rest of the UK. And yours as well. A good switch hitter. So, like, it was with Alan Booth that you fought for the world title with. When you get that call to confirm you're fighting for the world title, how did that feel?
I'll tell you. So when I used to go over to England for training, I would stay in Adam's house. And he called me down to the kitchen one morning and he said, "I've got something to tell you." And I was thinking, fuck me, what's going on here? Sort of shit myself a bit. And he sat down and he just turned his phone and it was a picture of me and Lee Haskins standing there. And he said, "I've signed the deal, you're fighting for the world title." To be honest, I started crying and I was like, I can't believe this is going to happen. And then, he showed me the picture, cried my eyes out a bit, and then that was it. We started training for the fight.
And the fight against Haskins, I know Haskins is I used to love watching Haskins. He's so tricky. How did you find fighting him? Because for you, it was still a massive step up in that position. But how did you find his style?
Sort of where people came unstuck with Haskins is he was so tricky, and what he didn't expect was I would be just as tricky. And I think when I fought him at his own game and I out-tricked the trickster, so to speak, he didn't really know how to deal with it. And he sort of changed his game plan a little bit, which fell into my hands. And then that's when I started to take the rounds.
Was it against him you got the Harry Potter cut?
Yeah, it was, and I've still fucking got that cut, so I can't get it away. It's still there, unfortunately.
And then,
Harry Potter.
After that fight, you weren't going to rest in your laurels. You went for Unification fight against an ex-clubmate of yourself. Before that fight, was emotions different in that fight, because not only because Unification was at stake, but he was like a friend of yours in camp too.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit weird in a way, the fact that I was coming up against a guy in Ricky Hatton's gym, someone who I'd trained with before. I'd sparred him before.
Yeah.
At the time I didn't have any fights, and I think he was entering European level. So when I was only up and coming as a pro, he used to Zanet bash me about the ring, like he used to beat me up. So, but I always held my own. So I did with that. So sorry, 2 seconds, buddy.
All right,
mate. Right. At the toilet? Eddie who? Sorry. Oh, yes. Paddy, have we got 2 seconds, mate?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Don't worry.
Give me 2 seconds. Right. Give us 2 seconds. Sorry. Come down here.
Ryan behind there's someone there. He's away for number 2. Ryan isn't here, so I'll tell you about our sparring. I used to beat him all the time. And a few teams.
I'm back.
You're there, sorry.
Right, go ahead.
We're talking about the Kazakh. I can't even say his name.
Zanat Zakyanov.
Zanat Zakyanov, yeah. The guy that unified the division against. Now, obviously, you're talking about their hard sparring and all that, and obviously you're quite young and inexperienced, and he was a high level.
Yeah.
Did that have any psychological effects before you fought him?
It did, yeah. I was nervous about it, but I always felt that in the sparring I held my own, and I knew that after having, I think I'd had 18 fights before I fought on it, I'd matured as a fighter, and I knew that I was getting stronger. And even way before I was a world champion, I told Adam, if I fight on it, I'll beat him. I know I'll beat him.
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me, even though he gave me a hard time in sparring. He really did. But I always knew that I was getting better and I could beat him. And I sort of took that belief into the ring with me, and it showed on the night. Like,
yeah, because actually, I was there at the fight, obviously, but it was such a tough fight, because he was a tough wee man. But I think what set up with you, it was your boxing skills to beat him. Yeah. Even though you did fight him at times, I was like, what's he doing? But you did. You showed your strong will, and you had fought him as well. Do you think this fight was the fight which really put you out there in the world boxing scene?
I think so, yeah. I mean, winning a world title, they say winning a world title is great, but it's holding on to it which builds your legacy. Although I didn't hold on to mine very long, but I held on to it long enough to build some sort of name for myself. And everyone was calling me, we didn't have to take the Zakyanov fight, and people were saying crazy. He's trying to unify the division in his first world title defense, really.
Yeah.
But it was a fight that I knew that I could win, and it was. I mean, in a strange way, it made sense to go for it, you know?
Yeah, it was high risk, high reward, and it paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely
Uh,
did. It was high risk, but it was a good reward as well.
yeah. You know, after those sort of fights, you were drafted into the World Boxing Series.
Yeah.
You know, the division was stacked. You know, it was a very, very highly hot division. Was there any particular reason you choose Nonito Donaire? Like, you could have picked any of them, but you picked Donaire.
Yeah, I picked Donaire because I've always believed the better the fighter, the better I become.
Yeah.
And I've seen Donaire as such a good fighter. I had the chance to get in with someone into the ring with someone I've always looked up to. And I mean, me and the team would talk, and Donaire made sense.
Yeah.
And that's the guy I wanted to fight, so that's the one we took.
Like, I was there in Glasgow at the fight, wasn't it? And to me, you know, you were cruising, you know, winning every round, you know.
Yeah.
You couldn't really catch you. And then obviously the freak injury happened. You know, what was going through your mind when it actually happened?
I wanted to keep fighting. I couldn't believe, in the fight, I felt myself just settling into everything. I was starting to find my range. I was starting to feel comfortable. I was making a miss, and I was comfortable doing it. And then I got that injury, and when I went down for the first time, I think if you watch it back, when I go down, you can see that I'm in agony and bad way. And as I said to myself, if I can get up and I can keep fighting, I might be all right. And I got up and I tried to keep fighting. And it's like trying to drive a car when it only has 3 wheels. Do you know what I mean? It's just not going to work. And I said to Adam in the corner, I can keep going. But Adam's been there. He's done it. He's seen it 100 times. And in his head, he said to himself, save yourself and fight another day, so to speak. Because the fighter that I am, I probably would have went out there and tried to continue on. And the finishers that Nonito is, chances are I would have knocked me clean out.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it would have went because I couldn't defend myself properly. So from a fighter's aspect, like myself, yes, I want to keep fighting. And Adam, being the knowledgeable guy that he is, made the right call and pulled me out.
Like, you know, this injury, you know, even though you fought again, topping the bill in Ulster Hall, was this the reason, you know, that you had to hang up the gloves?
Yeah, it was. It's just injuries that I'd picked up over the career that was starting to really play a factor to me, where I couldn't really get through training camps and things like that. And after talking to specialists that said, like, if you keep fighting on, you're going to do yourself a world of harm. And I'm young, and I thought to myself, your health's your wealth at the end of the day. And that's why we had to make the harsh decision of calling it a day.
What would you say would have been the highest moment of your career?
The highest moment of my career, the most memorable moment, would be winning that belt there.
Not the idea.
No, that's the WBO European. Yeah.
I've got it in the background somewhere.
To be honest, winning that belt to me was massive because that was my first belt that I'd won, and I felt like I was someone again after winning that belt. And I remember I didn't sleep for 2 days after I got it. So winning that belt was one of the highlights of my career.
It's interesting to say that there because of all the success you've had. That belt, because I actually remember in my third fight I fought for that belt.
Yeah.
And walking the weigh-in, I was like death, and you came in on over. And what were in the weigh-in, and then you left.
Yeah.
You went got me a carton of rice with loads of salt in it to eat.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, that's the Adam Booth trick. How to get carbs into his right and fast. And I seen you look like death, so I thought you could use some. You could do some boiled rice and some salt.
Well, here I worked the treat because I won the fight anyway. What would you say then? Do you think would be like the lowest moment or the worst moment of your career?
The worst moment of my career. Probably the worst moment of my career was before it had even started. when I was trying to get a pro license, they didn't give me my boxing license because they told me that I had a brain problem. So getting a phone call from a neurologist, a doctor saying, look, we're sorry, but you're not going to be allowed to fight ever again. That, I think, was the lowest that it could have got for me.
Yeah, but it's a bit ironic, like, doctors telling you because, anybody who wants to fight a pot age or, there must be something lacking in your brain anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, your whole professional career, you've been based in Manchester and I think London, both those, yeah?
Yeah, London.
Training. And did leaving your family and friends in Belfast to train away affect you anyway because you were quite young, like?
It did, yeah. I mean, I left for England when I was 19, and I went over to England and I lived on my own. It was tough, but I think it was good because you were able to get away from all the distractions. I didn't have any social life when I was in England, so I was away from any possible trouble that I could have get in and stuff like that. So although it was extremely tough, mentally challenging, because I was able to endure it, it paid off for me, definitely.
What do you think about the current situation in the minute? People fight behind closed doors.
What? Sorry.
About what do you think about what's going on now? Fighting behind closed doors.
I mean, I think it's the best you can do in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? At least lads are out there and they're getting fights. I don't know what their paychecks are like. I don't know if it's getting cut because you've got no crowd there. You know what I mean? You don't have. Sorry. Right. You don't have much revenue coming in. I don't expect from no bums on seats. Yeah. But at least lads are getting fights. They're keeping active and stuff like that. So, and yourself, people are thinking, oh, will it affect the fighter? I don't think it'll affect the fighter because, like we've sparred in gyms where it's only you and your coach, maybe a couple of other people. So I'd say the fighters are used to it. So the fighters will still perform at their peak. But whether they're getting the money or not is a different story, which I really hope they are somehow. Like
at the minute, you've recently opened up a new gym. Tell about that there.
I mean, I opened up a gym there just before lockdown, 2 weeks before lockdown, actually. And for the first 2 weeks, it was flying. And then, obviously, lockdown happened. Everything got closed up. But then I opened there a while ago, and it's taken off again. So I'm here. I've overcommitted myself. I'm working 6 days a week now. I'm in the gym 6 days a week, but I'm going to start cutting that back now.
And tell us, where are the gym? And if anybody wants to join it, how to go about joining it?
So the gym is at Nuts Corner, and if you want to join it, message my Instagram, and I'll put you onto the waiting list.
Now, give on. So here, we're going to do a quick fire question round, okay?
All right. No problem.
If you could choose a different sport, what would it be?
Football.
Football?
Loads of money.
Right there. Who would you say would be your greatest rival?
Greatest rival? Michael Conlon, because he beat me. Yeah.
Do you have any pre-fight superstitions?
No, nothing. Anything that happens doesn't matter. Everything's good to go.
Have you got a favourite quote or a favourite saying?
Yes. It's you versus you, and one day it'll all be worth it. I have it rolled up there on top of my gym.
Love it.
Yeah.
Who is your favourite sports person, past or present?
Favourite sports person, past or present? I don't know. It's really put me on the spot. I think his name's Paddy Barnes. Just a legend. He had a great career. I've always looked up to him.
We left North Belfast.
That's the one.
He did great class. Over here, Burnett. It's brilliant having you on. And if anybody wants us now, make sure if you want to go to the gym, Nuts Corner, email Burnett, and he'll sort it out. So, Ryan, thanks for being a part of PaddyCast, and I wish you all the success for your gym.
Cheers, man. Nice one. Cheers.
Yeah.